Welcome to the FT Cybersecurity Conference. One of the issues we discussed today was how banks protect themselves against cyber criminals. Joining me now is Kevin O'Rourke, the Chief Risk Officer for Europe at Mizuho Bank. Kevin, what's a big risk that the banks face from cyber attackers?
There are many attacks at the moment from cyber, and they're far-ranging. With their ransomware attacks, their CEO letter type attacks, attacks from inside the banks themselves and their employees. So it is very wide-ranging at the moment, but it is very high on the agenda of boards and of CISOs and chief risk officers.
As a risk officer, you're responsible for capital, credit, liquidity, now cyber. How do you engage with the board on that issue?
It's the board are very engaged with this issue. I believe pre-crisis, maybe cyber was being dealt with within IT departments within banks. Post-crisis, there's been a shift away from not a shift, but market risk, credit risk, the sensitivity towards those issues has not diminished, but the issue around operational risk and what can put you on the front page of a newspaper as a headline for failing customers or being attacked, banks are much more sensitive to that. And with the senior managers regime introduced in the UK, I'm not saying that has changed mindsets or it was needed, but certainly it has focused the minds that you are personally responsible for these things and it's not the responsibility of anyone else. We need to take a holistic approach, and I think most boards embrace that and have come to terms with that.
One other issue in cyber is deterrence, and we hear from some banks that there's not enough cases brought or not enough actions that really force deterrence. What's your view on that? Does law enforcement need to do more?
I believe so. I think in the early days of this threat, maybe banks were a bit, and financial institutions were a bit reticent about making such attacks aware, given the fact that banks weren't exactly flavour of the month. And so there was a reluctance to do that. But I believe in recent times, over the last year, 18 months, banks are now sharing this information. And it's one of the ways to actually tackle the criminal, because silence on non-sharing is the friend of the criminal. And one of the things to remember with cybercrime is it is a crime. There was a time perhaps when it was viewed as some sort of Robin Hood, David and Goliath, especially against the banks issue. But it is a crime. Fundamentally, it's a crime, and I think that awareness has got out there, and banks are sharing information in order to combat that much more effectively than they were.
Thank you, Kevin.